So I'm bringing your attention back to this video because this was the very first video I ever made. This was from the day that I had my very first sighting. I was completely unprepared for any kind of Bigfoot research that day. All I had was a cell phone. And when I first saw this creature, I didn't even have the phone. I had to go run, climb down a mountain, and retrieve my phone and come back up. But I've had a lot of people want me to put a circle around it and clarify where it is because it is hard to see. And so in this video, I'm going to try to zoom in and blow things up and make it more obvious and show a comparison footage of what it looks like when there is not a creature there. From the footage I took the very following day, there's a big stump directly where the creature's at. And when I was first filming the creature, I couldn't see the stump. I didn't know the stump was there because the body of the creature was blocking out the stump. But as you'll see when I do the side-by-side, there is a big stump directly on the other side of the creature. And so I have always assumed that it was digging in this stump, looking for grubs or something. I don't know for sure what it was doing there, but that is a pretty strong likelihood because of what I found in that area. There's massive activity of stumps and logs being torn apart and shredded all throughout that area. So I do strongly suspect that digging for grubs is something they do. And it spent a lot of time in this position. It spent a lot of time on that stump. So I have to assume that it was doing something. And digging for grubs, tearing apart the stump is what I believe was happening. So this is an old video from when I first implemented a spotting scope attached to a camera, and I'm standing up on the same mountaintop that I had the sighting from, and I'm able to zoom in and analyze all these stumps, all these old punky logs and stumps, and all of them have been torn, ripped apart, dug in. As you can see, there's red kind of bark dust, crumbly duff alongside most of them. And the only way that would happen is if something is digging in them, tearing them apart. They're not going to do that naturally. In this same video is where I got that accidental footage. This is the same footage that I have made a previous video about. A video called Bigfoot's Bears and More. And this is that scene with the reddish colored head of a Sasquatch sticking up beyond the stump. But I'm more interested in pointing out those red, crumbly remnants of something digging in these old stumps for food. And that's exactly what I believe the Sasquatch was doing when I was filming it. See, here's an old, what was a log, and it's just been completely ransacked and dug through. Here's another stump, been completely dug through. That one's been gutted out. There's a bunch of piles of red, crumbly duff at the base of them, like this one here. See all that duff. That doesn't just crumble on its own. And then look at this one. They must have really been finding them in that one. They dug a huge crater out of it. See, these are all the logs that I look at from that mountaintop. I zoom in on them. Wow, something really dug a crater out of this thing, looking for grubs. Oh, and then right here, that's kind of interesting. You got big, deep grooves here and here. Weird. that tree is gonna die. I mean, that's insane. That's a huge tree too, in a giant hollow. And then I also have to take into consideration what a lot of other experiencers and researchers have said before my time, and that is that when a Sasquatch is put in somebody's crosshairs of their camera, they freeze up. They go completely still, statue-like. And I have to say that I've experienced very similar things with my own research. This footage was from a very unexpected incident that happened to me on the Washington coast in a little beach community where I own a piece of property. I was just playing with my spotting scope, zoomed out across a swampy marshland, and I spotted what looks like a Sasquatch. I mean, it has the head, it has the arm, it has the body. I mean, it looks very much like a Sasquatch, but it never moved. And it had me just confused to what I was seeing. You know, it looked like one, but it just seemed too hard to believe that I was actually seeing one. Just playing with a scope randomly, and there I am, finding a Sasquatch in my scope. But, you know, the more that I've looked at this footage, the more I have come to believe that it actually is a Sasquatch. But it doesn't move. It just stays completely frozen. And unfortunately, I haven't had the time to get back to this town and reinvestigate that area and see if that thing is gone. But this is just a good example of catching a Sasquatch in your camera and it freezes up, doesn't move, statue-like. So a lot of people have commented about this video, you know, stating it's not clear, and it's not clear. I'm the first to admit that the footage is poor. I didn't have anything to zoom. I didn't have any kind of scope. I wasn't there researching Sasquatch that day. I was there looking for agates and crystals, and I just happened to see one. And this is the moment which started me down this whole journey. And I will say, prior to seeing this Sasquatch, I had a prior experience where I found a dead and mutilated deer, a deer that had been completely and totally just ripped apart. Its organs had been torn out. And so I definitely had Sasquatch in the back of my mind, but I wasn't up there for research. And this is the moment that started it all for me. So this is the deer that I've talked about in several interviews that I've done. And in a big way, this is the moment that kind of started me down this whole Bigfoot research, because I found this deer at my home, not far from my house, up a hill in a neighbor's yard, sort of. And this is nowhere even close to my research area. But finding this deer, the way that it had been butchered, the way it had been torn apart, and the way that all of its innards have been removed, heart, lung, kidneys, everything gone, totally mutilated, and the front legs have just been ripped clean off this thing. I mean, this isn't the way in which predators like bears and cougars deal with their prey. And we don't have bears and cougars where I live, in my neighborhood. We don't have any kind of national forest that touches the community that I live in. This was just a very creepy, bizarre thing to find walking around my neighborhood. I didn't really know what to make of it. It's 11 o'clock at night. I was taking my dog on a walk because my family and I were heading to the airport. We had to be at the airport at midnight. So I had no time to do anything. I couldn't call the Fish and Game. I couldn't do anything, but I took some pictures and I got the hell out of there in a hurry. Because I was concerned. Whatever had done this to that deer was probably nearby. Because clearly this deer hadn't been slaughtered and butchered in this grass. Because there would be blood, there would be mess all around it. And I was very uneasy, just my dog and I. So I took some pictures and got out of there. And when I got home, I was putting suitcases in the car and we were leaving immediately. So I didn't get to do anything but just think about this deer. Until I got home, I went and checked on it. And it was gone. There was no sign of anything. And so this kind of set me down the path of really considering cryptids, Sasquatch, Dogman, that kind of stuff. And then just unbelievably, coincidentally, a month later, I was up in the mountains. And that's when I was staring into that valley and actually seeing a Sasquatch for the first time. Now, I don't know how the two are correlated exactly, or even if they are, but the coincidences are really strange. I mean, unbelievably strange. But I've talked about this deer a lot. A lot of people have heard me talk about it in the interviews I've done, so I wanted to get some kind of footage of it out so people can see what I was talking about. And this is it. This is the deer. And I think it's important to point out that there was no cut marks. I mean, whatever did this didn't use a knife. Whatever did this use brute strength. But they did it in a way where this sack of bile and stomach acid and all that junk was never ruptured, never damaged. You know, you have to be careful not to rupture this. If this breaks open, it ruins all the meat. And it seems like whatever killed and harvested this deer, they were mostly interested in the organs, the inside. Because that's all been ripped out, probably eaten. And they got rid of the front legs. There's not a whole lot of meat on the front legs of a deer. And so I think that they just tore all that out and discarded it. There is a little bit of meat in here. It's about where you get the best meat off of a deer right here. But like I said, I think they were mostly interested in the innards. That's probably what they eat right away. And then the rest of the deer was going to get carried for, I don't know, a later snack, I guess. So I know a lot of people will look at the footage I captured that day and have doubt that it is a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch. And I totally understand that. It's very unclear. It's very far away. But what a doubter needs to at least consider is that if it wasn't for this moment, this day, and the fact that my footage is just crap, I probably wouldn't have gotten so involved with proving that these things are out there in that wilderness. Because I didn't like the fact that my footage was so blurry and unclear. And I didn't like there to be any room for anybody to doubt my claim of stating that I saw a Sasquatch that day. And so in a lot of ways, the blurry, unclear footage was kind of a blessing, I guess, or a curse, either or. Because if I'd had super clear footage that day and could show people, look, it's a Bigfoot, it's a Sasquatch. Had I had that footage, I probably wouldn't have gotten so involved with researching this subject and going so deep into these canyons and into this wilderness in pursuit of evidence. because I found a lot of evidence in my first year of doing this. And so for the doubters, I say this, if that's not a Sasquatch in this video, then how do you explain all of the things that I have found in pursuit of proving this is a Sasquatch? Because I've found a lot of stuff. The discovery of this particular X structure was a big moment for me. It was when I had decided that I am going to pursue this topic, that I am going to investigate, that I was going to hunt for Sasquatch and hunt for evidence of Sasquatch. And finding this X structure for me was a pretty big validation of my first video truly being of a Sasquatch, because I had seen enough Bigfoot stuff on TV and work from previous researchers from the past, and I knew immediately what I was looking at just by the perfect shape of the X and the way it was created by a clear tree break that was still attached. And I was pretty excited when I first found this, because it's a really pretty cool X structure. Big tree pushed over, and then a classic tree break bent over to form this perfect X, just in the middle of the woods. It's not something you find every day. And this was the moment that really told me that I was onto something. And I had really, really strong hopes and expectations to find more. And I did. I continued to keep finding them after this. This X structure was something that I found rather fascinating, because this was early on in my investigation of this forest. And what this is two treetops that have been snapped off from roughly 100 feet up in the canopy. These are tops of big, healthy trees. And they're snapped clean off, dropped to the forest floor. And that big, heavy log, that's hundreds of pounds. And it's propped up and leaned against that other treetop, resting on a very thin branch. So it's impossible that treetop fell from 100 feet up in the air and landed on that. It would have completely shattered any little branch that it landed on. So when I found this thing, I recognized right away that this thing had to have been propped up in this manner. It's not possible. The force of that big log shattering from that treetop and falling to the ground would have been so violent and so forceful, it would have shattered and destroyed anything it landed on. And yet there it was, propped up on this little dinky branch, creating an X up in the air. It was strange. It was bizarre. It was fascinating. And this X structure, it only lasted that winter, because I only saw this thing a few times before, I don't know, wind or Mother Nature or what have you broke that branch and allowed it to fall, because it is just barely hanging on to that fragile little branch. But it was something that I was pretty glad to have found and gotten footage of before Mother Nature had its way with it. But as you can see, look how high up those trees are. Those are tall, tall trees. That thing snapping off from one of those treetops and falling to the ground would have flattened the roof of a car. So the fact that it was hung up on that branch and sitting in that way, it's impossible. No matter what, that thing had to have been propped that way. And this particular X structure was really interesting to me because it brought my attention to the treetops. And that has become a major focal point of my investigation of this forest. The topped trees is an ongoing phenomenon up there. Something is in that forest breaking treetops at a level I've not found in any other forest. And I'm talking across many states. I have searched forests trying to find anything that compares to the topped tree phenomenon that I am encountering up in this research area. I've not found anything even comparable. I have found some trees that have been topped in some areas where there was some pretty compelling Sasquatch sign. But it's just the volume of topped trees in my research area. It's incomparable. I've not found anything that resembles it at all. And this particular structure is just a really good example of that.
So, I found my game camera. Couldn't find it. Took a while. It's right here behind me. It's really weird because I go to check it and it was turned off. And it's just so hard for me to believe that I would have went through all the work of setting this camera up and not turning it on. I mean, I guess it's possible. I had a lot on my mind. Set it up and just left and didn't turn it on, but it's really weird. But it's turned on now, so we'll see. These trails, you know, I thought I had these trails pretty well made, but they really disappeared. I guess once the leaves start falling and the environment changes, things really change. Because I came through here with a chainsaw and everything, and I can't seem to find my trail to save my freaking life. I mean, I can find like parts of it, and then it's gone. Well, I guess it's fine. It's pretty easy to walk through here, most of it. So yeah, this looks like it could be the trail. Oh, now I see the trail. See, that's weird. The trail circled around like this. It came up that way. Yeah, see, this is where my Onyx map. So now I know that Onyx map, it'll only put you within like maybe 15 yards of your marker. It's a big old monster of a stump. Because now I'm definitely on my trail. Well, at least it's still there. I thought it was gone. See, I'm back at that. The cross tree, X tree, whatever. That definitely wasn't here a few months ago when I came through here, because I would have remembered that. I'm always looking for stuff like that. So natural, unnatural, whatever, either or. It's definitely new. Because see these two stumps right here. That monster, and then up there that super monster up in the... I can't even tell if it's getting picked up by this camera or not, but those were always landmarks that I would look for because they're just so unforgettable. Especially this one with the old notches from the old school loggers. So it is highly unlikely that I would not have remembered that big cross in a tree like that. But I don't know. You do tend to look down when you're in the woods. You're always looking at your foot, your footing. But who knows, maybe I do have it on a different video and I stop and talk about it, but I doubt it. I hope I would remember that. Because I know that I've stopped and talked about this thing. Well, so far nothing. Nothing on the game camera is worth noting. Well, I guess that's not true. The other game cameras, the ones I checked yesterday, they had a lot of elk. Elk and deer, coyote, which was kind of cool. I left the chip in the cameras, which I kind of regret now, because I'm not getting anything cool on these ones. So I should have brought back those chips, because then I'd have some cool footage to do something with. I will say, in the past, when I've entered this forest, I mean, there were times where every hair in the back of my neck was standing up, and I heard this strange, weird, like, weird sound way down in the bottom of the canyon, and just totally different today. Like, I don't feel like there's Sasquatch out here at all. Maybe they do leave during these harsh winter months. This will be my first winter out here, researching these things.
So at this stage of my investigation, my research of that area, I had started focusing a lot of attention towards these arches, these bent over conifer trees. Because I know a lot about trees. I've been doing tree work for years. I know that a conifer tree, a Doug fir, a cedar, a hemlock, those trees grow straight. They reach straight up for the sky. They don't reach over, they don't twist, they don't bend like a leafy tree does, like the alders and maples and all the deciduous trees. They're more commonly found growing in weird ways, but conifer trees do not do that. And these right here, I believe, are all Doug firs, probably a mixture of Doug fir and hemlock. And when I started focusing attention on these arches, these bent over conifer trees with all of the branches removed off the top side of them, making a perfect ramp or runway, if you will, for something to run right up them and be up in the air. Focusing my attention on these arches led to a lot of big discoveries. See, this tree, when it first got moved, it got stuck right there at that top indent. And then it got moved further and it got stuck at that second indent. And then they were able to scrape it all the way down.
It rubbed on. Oh, sorry, you were doing a video.
Yeah, it's all right.
You can see where it rubbed further up. Like there's two little grooves on the other side of this branch. See them?
Oh, yeah, that's where it first got snagged. Yeah, and then it got forced even further.
Yeah, as it went down, it
yeah.
Different groove in there.
And it still got roots. It's still connected to the ground.
Whoa. Sugar pine.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, sugar pine cone. That's not... I don't think these are native to these types. This is a blue spruce. This didn't come from this part of this stand.
Yeah, I don't see these.
Look at the needles.
Yeah.
Those come from a sugar pine at higher elevation.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
these are western cedars. That is not the same. That is not from this forest.
So, this video has a lot of importance, and I apologize for the quality of it. It was all captured by a cell phone, and I wasn't really in the mode to make an important video. But what this video shows is how important it is as a researcher to bring a second set of eyes out there with you sometimes. Because on this particular trip, I had a scientist with me. Brent he's a friend of mine, and he came out there to go on a rock hunting trip with me. And he was aware of my involvement, my fascination with Sasquatch. And he was open-minded to Sasquatch, is open-minded. And if it wasn't for him there that day, I would have never found that pine cone. Now, he was incorrect about the species. He thought it was a sugar pine. I later found out that it is a subalpine, but he was correct about it not being from that forest. It is a pine cone from a tree that does not, will not, cannot grow in that region. It's a high elevation tree, and the nearest forest that would have grown that pine cone was somewhere up by Mount Hood or up by Mount Rainier. Hundreds of miles away. And yet there it was beneath one of these arches. I would have never seen it. I would have never picked it up. I wouldn't even have thought about this thing. But he is a scientist. He has a different mind than me. He knows more about certain things than I do. And he recognized immediately that that pine cone did not belong. So we kept it. And I put it in a bag, and I have it stored somewhere. But it wasn't till I found the next one that I really knew something was going on. Yeah, that's kind of a strange tree. One of many in here that don't make any sense.
What's this?
That's another one. Dude, hell yeah, buddy. That's an awesome find. That is crazy. Good eye, dude. Good eye. That's insane. It was sitting like that. Right? Stuck in the dirt?
Yeah.
Dude. Oh my God.
That's the same kind of pine cone that was under the... Oh my freaking God. Dude. That's crazy. Okay, my son just... he didn't even know what he's looking for. And he goes, what's this? That's the same exact pine cone. The same exact species of subalpine. It's a high elevation pine cone that doesn't belong in here. And we found one of those under the other new tree bend that was right over there where we just left the fruit. What was that? Dude, that is so crazy, bud. Like, I'm freaking blown away. I wouldn't even have spotted it. I wasn't even thinking about another subalpine pine cone being left under the bent tree. What does this mean? Like, are they trying to get them to grow here? I mean, I don't think that, no, who knows? I don't know if we should take it and put it with the other one. The thing is, that would have Sasquatch DNA on it. So the other one that we me and Brent touched it a whole bunch, Bailey. But this one we haven't touched, so I could put it in that. Okay, give me that plastic bag. Oh. Yeah, it's really stuck in there. Interesting.
Discovering the second pine cone was a very big deal for me. The first pine cone was strange, no doubt. A pine cone from a tree that doesn't exist in that forest beneath an arch that I am confident was created by a Sasquatch. But then to find a different arch, a different Sasquatch arch, in a different pine cone of that same species placed beneath it. These pine cones traveled a long ways. I don't know the precise distance, but you're talking over 100 miles to the nearest subalpine forest. And here they are, placed beneath an arch. But not only just, it wasn't just placed there, it was intentionally stuck in the mud. You know, with intention. And this proves so much in supporting the existence of Sasquatch. This pine cone in my hand, it has teeth marks in it, which means that a Sasquatch held that pine cone in its mouth, possibly had it in its mouth while it was working on bending and arching that tree, possibly had it in its mouth during the entire journey from where it came. With the right study, somebody could probably figure out exactly where these pine cones came from, which region they originated from. These pine cones can prove so much. It can prove Sasquatch is either a migratory or a transitory creature. It can prove migration routes, where they came from. I mean, these pine cones didn't just fall from the sky. They were brought to my research area, put there for a reason. The pine cones have so much potential in proving the existence of these creatures. I just don't have the means to test it for saliva DNA. I don't have the means to do in-depth analysis on, you know, potentially what area, what tree this pine cone originated from. But these pine cones can prove a lot. In my opinion, they're a huge discovery for proving the existence of these creatures. I hope someday I can partner with the right person and I can put these pine cones through a in-depth analysis, potentially even test them for Sasquatch DNA, saliva. I mean, I know at a minimum they were handled by the Sasquatch and they look like they have teeth marks in them. I mean, these pine cones are a major discovery. They are physical evidence that proves the existence of Sasquatch. But for now, I just don't have the means to go any further with them. So if anybody knows anyone that can help me further investigate these pine cones, I would love to have a conversation with them. Trying to put all of my discoveries of my Sasquatch research into one video, it's hard to do. And I've made a lot of videos about all of this. But I feel I should at least mention the upside down tree site that I have found, nearly 20 upside down trees, and a discovery of potentially the largest deposit of Sasquatch hair ever found. But if you want to learn more about that, there's a video called 2 Nights Amongst the Sasquatch with Wife and Kids, Part 1, and that shows you all about the hair discovery. And another video called Upside Down Trees, More Enigmas of Sasquatch, that will show you everything about my upside down tree discovery.